Wāhi kia koe Nelson Mandela e moe.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Peter Dunn.
Mr Speaker, history records the stories of many extraordinary men and women. And many of those stories are either a little bit misted by time or embellished by the passage of time. We are all privileged to have lived in the same time as one of the greatest people in history, Nelson Mandela. And we do not need the story to be embellished or dressed up because we know the story. We have heard it now frequently, and our admiration for the account of events, I suspect, increases every time we hear it. The idea that a man who was so seized with a cause to be imprisoned for such a long period of time in such harsh and intolerable conditions, to then be released as an old man and bear his captors no grudge, is one many of us struggle to comprehend. How can it be, yet we witnessed it, not just that day of the long walk to freedom in February 1990, but in his subsequent life right through to the time of his death last week. And we saw alongside the wisdom, the generosity of spirit, we saw also a man who had a true sense of humility, a remarkably self-deprecating sense of humour, and an extraordinary ability to engage with people, to give them that moment of time where they seem to be the centre of his world, and then also to inspire them to be loyal forever after. I recall when he came to New Zealand in 1995, two events. Firstly, the day he came to this Parliament, a sunny Wellington day as usual. You could not move around this complex for people in the grounds. Every building nearby, every balcony was thronged with crowds waiting to see the great man arrive. A couple of weeks later, the Queen of England came to New Zealand. There were barely 200 people in the grounds to welcome her on that occasion. That, to me, spoke volumes. Nelson Mandela attracted the attention of New Zealanders, not just those of us who'd been part of the 1981 campaign, but New Zealanders across the board who wanted to pay honour to his extraordinary achievements and to acknowledge his greatness. And the second recollection I have from that visit was a dinner he spoke at the Wellington Town Hall, where he demonstrated that wonderfully self-deprecating sense of humour. He told a story about being in the Kruger National Park and two stereotypical elderly female American tourists accosted him. And in an accent which I won't pretend to repeat, they told him how much they admired the great little country that he had and this wonderful place that they were present at. And he thanked them and moved off. And he said, I then heard one say to the other, "Who was that?" "Oh, I don't know," said the other one. "He was probably one of the gamekeepers." And he, as the President of South Africa, could tell that story just to put everyone at ease without having to draw attention to himself. But, Mr Speaker, I think there's one other important feature of his life and his approach that we perhaps haven't paid sufficient attention to. We know of the man who struggled for years, a lifetime, to make South Africa the rainbow nation it is today. And we know of the way in which for all of that time, or a large part of it, the white community in South Africa decried him as a terrorist. And if anyone heard the interview this morning on Morning Report with Francois Pienaar talking about his engagement with Nelson Mandela, you get a real sense of that. But actually, when you look at what Mandela was about, it wasn't about attacking the institutions of the state. When he became president, he became a firm upholder of the institutions of the South African state. It was about who controlled those institutions. It was about who controlled the law, who controlled the courts, who controlled the parliament, who controlled the economy. And the fact that for so much of his life, so many of his fellow countrymen were excluded from that process. Mr Speaker, it is a remarkable train of events now taking place in South Africa. The memorial services, the fact that there will be 3 funeral processions over the next few days to allow everyone to participate. is a sort of event that we could not contemplate occurring in the normal course of our lives. But it's a mark of the world's fondness for, respect for and recognition of the achievements of Nelson Mandela. All of us have our memories, all of us know the story, all of us wish the people of South Africa strength, steadfastness and determination as they go through this period and as they face the future of their country. But I think as Nelson Mandela managed in the last years of his life, in his post-release period, to unite a nation, that he will be an even more strong uniting force in his death. And he will be a memory that will create a tradition that people will want to aspire to for the future. And as my colleague quoted that quotation before about Mandela's prescience of his own death, he will be able to rest contented and peacefully, that his long walk to freedom is over, his journey is done, his people are safe, his country on the road to prosperity and to progressivity in the future.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. No petitions have been delivered to the clerk for